My Gavanan, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to discuss all about Varda Elentari, who goes by many other names, which we will discuss. She is one of my very favorite Valier or Valier, which is the female version of Valar. So she is the queen of the stars, the star kindler, the star maker of Middle Earth, and we will be discussing all about her powers and what makes her represent Arda. And before I go into the Silmarillion, I found something interesting in the coming of the Valar and the building of Valinor in the Book of Lost Tales, Part 1. This takes place here where Rumiel is an elf that is telling a tale about, it's basically the Valaquenta, which is how Middle Earth came to be. And so he's telling the tale to his fellow elves. And so it says here, "Then said Rumiel, for he sat upon a stool in a deep shadowed nook, then with the leave of Lindo and of Vaire, I will begin the tale." And this is Vaire, Lindo's wife, not the Valier. "Else will you go on asking forever, and may the company have pardon, if they hear old tales again." But Vaire said that those words concerning the oldest things were far from stale, yet in the ears of the Eldar. Then said Rumiel, "Behold, Manwe, Sulimo, and Varda the beautiful arose. Varda, it was who at the plain of the music had thought much of light that was of white and silver and of stars. Those twain gathered now wings of power to themselves and fared swiftly through the three airs. Vaieta is that which is wrapped dark and sluggish about the world, and without it. But Ilwe is blue and clear and flows among the stars. And last came they to Vilina, that is gray, and therein may the birds fly safely." So he was describing three different layers that surround the earth and protect the earth, or Varda. So the reason why Varda represents the light of Iluvatar, the star maker, the star kindler, is because before she took shape as a Valar or Valier, she was thinking of light that was white and silver. And so she was thinking of stars. And so whatever you focus on, you start to become. And that is an example of what we see with the Valar and the Valier. So that was just one part I wanted to read to you before I started the Silmarillion, because the Silmarillion is the tale that is told to the elves and what the elves know and understand of how Middle Earth came to be and how the stars and the awakening of the elves. Because many of you know who come to my channel, I talk about the stars as well as nature and elven things, because I am myself a starry elven soul. And that is what Tolkien's elves were, because they were not just concerned about nature, but they also were enamored by the stars. They revered the stars. So they definitely respected all parts of nature and included the cosmos within nature as well. So they were a little different than sometimes you might think of earthly elves, because they included the stars as well. And in fact, the name Eldale and Adalie, they mean path of the star people, or, well, star people. And so Tia Elda Lieva is the path of the star people. And that is just a little bit of information for you here before I go on. So once we learn about Manwe, we go into when Manwe dwells, Varda, Lady of the Stars, who knows all the regions of Ea. too great is her beauty to be declared in the words of men or of elves, for the light of Iluvatar lies still in her face. In light is her power and her joy. Out of the deeps of Ea she came to the aid of Manwe, for Melkor she knew from before the making of the music, and rejected him. And he hated her, and feared her more than all others whom Eru made. Manwe and Varda and are seldom parted, and they remain in Valinor. Their halls are above the everlasting snow upon Oyolose, the uttermost tower of Taniquetel, tallest of all the mountains upon earth. When Manwe there ascends his throne and looks forth, if Varda is beside him, he sees further than all other eyes, through mist and through darkness, and over the leagues of the sea. And if Manwe is with her, Varda hears more clearly than all other ears the sound of voices that cry from east to west, from the hills and the valleys, and from the dark places that Melkor has made upon earth. Of all the great ones who dwell in this world, the elves hold Varda most in reverence and love. Elbereth, they name her, and they call upon her name out of the shadows of Middle-earth, and uplift it in song at the rising of the stars. If you ever want to understand the true energy of twin flame energy, all you have to do is know about Manwe and Varda, and how they complement one another, and how they improve and amplify each other's powers. And that's the twin flame energy, and that's what Tolkien wrote about with Manwe and Varda, along with the other Valar couples, of course, but especially you see it in the powers described between Manwe and Varda, and how they share it, and how they are greater together than they are alone. Next here is just a little information for you, because Manwe and Varda, they also had children. And so these are the children of Manwe and Varda. Chief among the Maiar of Valinor, whose names are remembered in the histories of the Eldar days, are Ilmare, the handmaid of Varda, and Eanwe, the banner bearer and herald of Manwe, whose might in arms is surpassed by none in Arda. But of all the Maiar, Osi and Yunin are best known to the children of Iluvatar. And it's probably because Ilmare and Eanwe, they live in lofty heights in the sky. And, they are the children of Manwe and Varda. And so they are the thought forms that came from that energy of the sky and of the stars. So that is just a little information there. And Varda is known for many things in the Silmarillion. I tried my best to pick out the most important messages, maybe, because why we learn about the Valar is so that we can focus on their energies and their powers, and we can bring that out in our own selves. And especially during a time of darkness within your own life or within the world, Varda's powers are very important. So it's great that we are talking about Varda today. So this is about Varda and the lamps that she helped create. So in that time, the Valar brought order to the seas and the lands and the mountains, and Yavanna planted at last the seeds that she had long devised. And since when the fires were subdued or buried beneath the primeval walls, there was need of light. Aule, at the prayer of Yavanna, wrought 2 mighty lamps for the lighting of the middle earth, which he had built amid the circling seas. Then Varda filled the lamps, and Manwe hollowed them. And hollowed means, in Tolkien's language, it means to sanctify or to make holy. So you can almost imagine that anything that is created, then you have Manwe or even Varda sanctify and make something very holy and pure so that it can last longer, so that it would be revered and respected and cannot be easily destroyed. And the Valar set up them upon high pillars, more lofty far than any other mountains of the later days. One lamp they raised near to the north of Middle-earth, and it was named Eluin, and the other was raised in the south, and it was named Ormail. And the light of the lamps of the Valar flowed out over the earth, so that all was lit as it were in a changeless day. So we see that Varda's powers are used quite a lot. If anything has to do with light and illumination, that's where Varda is needed. So this explains a little bit of where Varda lives with Manwe. So I found this here, and this is in the beginning days in the Silmarillion still. Thus ended the spring of Varda. The dwelling of the Valar upon Almaran was utterly destroyed by Melkor, of course, the Ainur of discord. And they had no abiding place upon the face of the earth. Therefore they departed from Middle-earth and went to the land of Amon, the westernmost of all lands upon the borders of the world, for its west shores looked upon the outer sea, that is called by the elves Ekaya, encircling the kingdom of Arda. How wide is that sea none know but the Valar, and beyond it are the walls of the night. But the east shores of Amon were the uttermost end of Belagar, the great sea of the west. And since Melkor was returned to Middle-earth, and they could not yet overcome him, the Valar fortified their dwelling, and upon the shores of the sea they raised the Pelori, the mountains of Amon, highest upon earth. And above all the mountains of the Pelori was that height upon whose summit Manwe set his throne. Taniquetil, the elves name that holy mountain, and Oilosi, everlasting whiteness, and Elarina, crowned with stars, and many names beside. But the Sindar spoke of it in their later tongue as Amen Ulos. From their halls upon Taniquetil, Manwe and Varda could look out across the earth, even into the farthest east. So that's where they sat. And it's very much how you would think of maybe the idea of Zeus and Hera sitting on Mount Olympus, but a little bit different, and they represent different ideas. So this part here is what happens when the time is coming when the elves are going to awaken soon. And so this is what Varda does to prepare for that. So here it is. Did I say that? Yes, here it is. But as the ages drew on to the hour appointed by Iluvatar for the coming of the firstborn, the elves, Middle-earth lay in a twilight, beneath the stars that Varda had wrought in the ages forgotten of her labors in Ea. And in the darkness Melkor dwelt, and still often walked abroad, in many shapes of power and fear. And he wheeled cold and fire from the tops of the mountains to the deep furnaces that are beneath them. And whatsoever was cruel or violent or deadly in those days is laid to his charge. But Manwe, Sulimo, highest and holiest of the Valar, sat upon the borders of Amon, forsaking not in his thought of the outer lands, for his throne was set in majesty upon the pinnacle of Taniquetil, the highest of the mountains of the world, standing upon the margin of the sea. Spirits in the shape of hawks and eagles flew ever to and from his halls, and their eyes could see the depths of the seas and pierce the hidden caverns beneath the world. Thus they brought word to him of well nigh all that passed in Arda, yet some things were hidden even from the eyes of Manwe and the servants of Manwe. And here it says that this is the time when it starts happening here. When Manwe dwelt, Varda the most beautiful, she who in the Sindarin tongue is named Elberith, queen of the Valar, maker of the stars, and with them with a great host of spirits in blessedness. And here it is. But at the bidding of Manwe, Mando spoke, and he said, in this age the children of Iluvatar shall come indeed, but they come not yet. Moreover, it is doomed that the firstborn shall come in the darkness, and shall look first upon the stars. Great light shall be of their waning. To Varda ever shall they call at need. So right there, he set the tone that Varda would be the one that the elves would call out to in their time of darkness. And it makes a lot of sense if she is in charge of the light of the stars and light in the universe in general. Then Varda went forth from the council, and she looked out from the height of Taniquetil and beheld the darkness of Middle-earth, beneath the innumerable stars, faint and far. Then she began a great labor, greatest of all the works of the Valar since their coming into Arda. She took the silver dews from the vats of Telperion, the silver tree, and therewith she made new stars, and brighter against the coming of the firstborn. Wherefore she, whose name out of the deeps of time and the labors of Ea was Tintali, the kindler, was called after by the elves Elentari, queen of the stars. Elentari. So what I wanted to just say here is that this is why she made these particular stars. She said that, you know, the elves, they were so bright in terms of these beings that were going to be born on Arda. So she needed to make even brighter stars to wake them up, because they already carried so much light within themselves. And so she needed the new stars to be brighter than the older ancient stars that have already existed. And not only stars, but planets, because we know that when we look up to the sky, many of the bright stars that we see are actually planets. So here it says Carneal, which is Mars, Lunel, which is said to be Neptune, but also Nanar is said to be Neptune, and Lumbar, Saturn. El-Carinque is Jupiter, and Elamira is Mercury. She wrought in that time, and many other of the ancient stars she gathered together and set as signs in the heavens of Varda. Vilvarin, Cassiopeia, Telemendel. Now nobody knows who Telemendel is, so that's a hard one to figure out. I almost wanted to say it is the Pleiades, because Remarath is the elven name for netted stars or netted road. But as we know, in the Elvish language, you always have a title, and then you have something to describe something. So it could have both names. So that could be the Pleiades, because right next is Saronume, which is Vega in Lyra, and Anarima, and Menelmilkar, which is identified as Orion. Anarima is not identified yet. With his shining belt that forebodes the last battle, this is of Orion, that shall be at the end of days, and high in the north, as a challenge to Melkor, she set the crown of 7 mighty stars to swing Valakirka, the sickle of the Valar, and sign of doom. And Valakirka, the sickle of the Valar, is the Big Dipper. So we see the number 7 being used in Tolkien's story, and that symbolizes the Big Dipper. It is told that even as Varda ended her labors, and they were long, when first Menelmilkar strode up the sky, and the blue fire of Helluin, which is Sirius, flickered in the mist above the borders of the world, in that hour the children of earth awoke, the firstborn of Iluvatar, By the starlit mere of Quivinian, water of awakening, they rose from the sleep of Iluvatar, and while they dwelt, yet silent by Quivinian, their eyes beheld first of all things the stars of heaven. Therefore they have ever loved the starlight, and have revered Varda Elentari above all the Valar. And I just wanted to say here, I found a really great note on the idea of the stars in terms of Orion and Sirius being explained just a little bit more here. This is actually the Book of Lost Tales, Part 2. So here it says, Orion is only the image of Telemakhtar in the sky. Varda gave him stars, and he bears them aloft that the gods may know he watches. He has diamonds on his sword sheath, and this will go red when he draws his sword at the great end. But now Telemakhtar and Gil, another name for Haluin and Sirius, who follows him like a blue bee to ward off evil, and Varda immediately replaces any stars that Melkor loosens and casts down. So that is the sign of the triumph of the light over the darkness, is that warrior Orion, and then he has this little blue bee that follows him. And there is another connection with stars. I found out, and we'll get to a little bit more when I talk about Orome. Orome's name by the Noldar elves is Eldoran, and also known as Tauros, so is also connected to the Taurus constellation is Orome. So there's a lot of star connections within Tolkien stories, and you could really dig deep, and it's just wonderful to read. But Varda was responsible for all of that to help to awaken the elves. And here is where she also helps with the Silmarils that Feanor was responsible for creating. So here it is. And the inner fire of the Silmarils Feanor made of the blended light of the trees of Valinor, which lives in them yet, though the trees have long withered and shined no more. Therefore, even in the darkness of the deepest treasury of the Silmarils, of their own radiance, shone like the stars of Varda. And yet, as were they indeed living things, they rejoiced in light, and received it, and gave it back in hues more marvelous than before. So she also helped with the Silmarils as far as she sanctified them, and she made them holy. And here it says, all who dwelt in Amon were filled with wonder and delight at the work of Feanor, and Varda hallowed the Silmarils, so that thereafter no mortal flesh, no hands unclean, nor anything of evil will might touch them, but it was scorched and withered, and Mondos foretold that the fates of Varda, earth, sea, and air lay locked within them. The heart of Feanor was fast bound to these things that he himself had made. But also, Varda was the one to make them holy, and so this also created them to be very pure crystals of jewels, and this is what caused them to be so revered on Middle-earth too, was because of Varda. And here is Varda's, the making of the sun and the moon. So she's also responsible for the other celestial bodies, as we saw, the planets and the stars. And then here it says this as well. Isil the Sheen, the Vanyar of old, named the moon, flower of Telperion in Valinor, and Anar, the fire-golden fruit of Laureline, they named the sun, but the Noldar named them also Rena, the wayward, and Vasa, the heart of fire, that awakens and consumes, for the sun was set as a sign for the awakening of men, and the waning of the elves, but the moon cherishes their memory. And this is where we see that these vessels that would drive the moon and the sun, it says here, these vessels the Valar gave to Varda, that they might become lamps of heaven, outshining the ancient stars, being near to Arda, and she gave them power to traverse the lower regions of Ilmen, and set them to voyage upon appointed courses above the girdle of the earth, from the west onto the east, and to return. And there's a little bit more information here about that I found in, yes, Morgoth's ring. This was a very interesting part here. This is called the Annals of Amon, and it says, Varda commanded the moon to journey in like matter, and passing under earth to arise in the east, but only after the sun had descended from heaven. Battilion went with uncertain pace, as yet he goes, and was still drawn towards Arion, as he shall ever be, so that oft both may be seen above the earth together, or at times it will chance that he comes so nigh that his shadow cuts off her brightness, and there is a darkness amid the day. Interesting, because we have a lunar eclipse happening tomorrow. I think it actually starts at midnight tonight too, depending on where you are, but around me it's starting. So we have a lunar eclipse, and that is what he's talking about, is that sometimes the moon and the sun will meet up, even though they seem like they're forever chasing each other. And the moon is a masculine energy, and the sun is a feminine energy. And Varda was the one who commanded the pathways of both of those so that Middle-earth could have light. So this, I thought, would be a good point here to discuss, yes, the notes on the stars. So I found this very, very interesting about stars and what Tolkien really was trying to say, that the cosmo myth of our Numenorian, blending elven lore with human myth and imagination. A note should say that the wise of Numenor recorded that the making of stars was not so, nor of sun and moon, for sun and stars were all older than Arda, but the placing of Arda amidst stars and under the guard of the sun was due to Manwë and Varda before the assault of Melkor. So there's this idea that the energy of the stars and the energy of, all the celestial bodies are actually older than the earth in terms of what Varda was thinking as an Ainur about the light of the white bright light of the stars. So it was older because it was part of Eru Ilúvatar's mind before Middle-earth actually became physical. So I thought that was a really interesting note to talk about there. And this is the type of reason, I think, why the idea of like the stars being so important all through the ages, that when you get to the third age, you start to hear more about the elves never forgetting, and some people even know about Elbereth, like Frodo did when he studied the elven lore. And so the elves never forget something that Varda promised with the making of the stars, is that all of the darkness in the world that comes to Middle-earth, that the light would always shine out brighter, and that there would be a victory and a triumph of the light in the end, because you wouldn't have the darkness forever. So Varda is known throughout all the ages, through all elven lore, to be called on in times of darkness and need. And so this is one of the famous songs that can be heard in Elven tongue, and says Frodo knew only a little, but he knew some of it because he heard of it before. And this is in the Three as Company, the Fellowship of the Ring. So this is in the Third Age. He hears Elven singing. It says, the singing drew nearer. I should actually start here. What about elves? Said Sam, too excited to trouble about the rider. Can't we go and see them? Listen, they are coming this way, said Frodo. We have only to wait. The singing drew nearer. One clear voice rose now above the others. It was singing in the fair elven tongue, of which Frodo knew only a little, and the others knew nothing. Yet the sound, blending with the melody, seemed to shape itself in their thought into words, which they only partly understood. This was the song as Frodo heard it. Snow white, O lady clear, O queen beyond the western seas, O light to us that wander here amid the world of woven trees. Githaniel, O Elbereth, clear are thy eyes and bright thy breath. Snow white, we sing to thee in a far land beyond the sea. O stars that in the sunless year with shining hand by her were sown, in windy fields now bright and clear, we see your silver blossoms blown. O Elbereth, Githaniel, we still remember, we who dwell in this land beneath the trees, thy starlight on the western seas. The song ended. These are high elves. They spoke the name of Elbereth, said Frodo in amazement. Few of that fairest folk are ever seen in the Shire. Not many now remain in Middle-earth, east of the Great Sea. This is indeed a strange chance. So we still see the name Elbereth being used, being called on every once in a while. And here is where we see the celebration of Melamencar or Orion when it comes into the night sky during the autumn, depending on the location of where the elves are. And here it is. Three as a company. This is when the elves and Frodo, they gather together and they're basically invited to walk with them. And it says here, they're sitting in the village of Woodhall, which is a manifested place for just a quick little feast and a rest from their journey. And the hobbits were invited to eat with them. And it says, the elves sat on the grass and spoke together in soft voices. They seemed to take no further notice of the hobbits. Frodo and his companions wrapped themselves in cloaks and blankets, and drowsiness stole over them. The night grew on, and the lights in the valley went out. Pippin fell asleep, pillowed on a green hillock. Away high in the east swung Ramareth, the netted stars, and slowly above the mist red Borgil rose. So Ramareth is the Pleiades, and Borgil is, I think it is either Atlas, or I think it might even be Eldaron. That might actually be its star name as well. Glowing like a jewel of fire. Then by some shift of airs, all the mist was drawn away like a veil, and there leaned up, as he climbed over the rim of the world, the swordsman of the sky, Melavacar, with his shining belt. And that's Orion, because if you draw a straight line from Pleiades, Orion's belt, it all lines up right there. And then you have the Sirius right underneath, so it's all connected there. The elves all burst into song. Suddenly, under the trees, a fire sprang up with a red light. Come, the elves called to the hobbits. Come, now is the time for speech and merriment. So once again, you see that in the Third Age, they're still celebrating when they see that symbol of triumph over any of the darkness. It represents hope to the elves, and the final victory over the evils that Morgoth, as they know in their elven tongue, the deceiver, spread on Middle-earth, but it came from Melkor, the Ainur of discord. And so Varda represents hope and the light that is going to come forward through the darkness one day. Now, I wanted to discuss a little bit about all her names, because when you read the different tales of Lord of the Rings, depending on where you're going from, either the Silmarillion or the Lord of the Rings, the three parts, you will see that Elbereth has different names. So the Sindarin is Elbereth, and Elbereth means Star Queen, and Githaniel is Star Kindler. And in Quenya, it's Elentari, Star Queen, and Fenulius is Ever White, and Tintali is Star Kindler in Quenya. So she goes by a lot of different names, and also there's even other names beyond that that you can find on Tolkien's Gateway if you want to really look it up. And we see Tolkien's theories or ideas of what the stars represent. There's a famous quote that Galadriel says in the Fellowship of the Ring when she gives the vial of Erendiel to Frodo, which is said to be the light from their most beloved star, which is actually Venus, we find out. And so she says, "May it be a light to you in dark places when all other lights go out." So now we start to see that Tolkien saw the stars as definitely representatives of hope and of the illumination through the darkness. And so Varda's powers herself represent illumination, divine light that wards off evil, hope, and not just hope in a naive way, but hope in a fully spiritually aware way. The idea that understanding that the darkness cannot always stay dark, and that there will become light one day through that darkness, and that the darkness itself is there only so that you can appreciate the light when it comes. And actually, that is a Tolkien's quote as well about the darkness being only for a little while, but the light was forever high and beautiful and unreached by the shadows themselves. And so she represents hope. Her name actually means in Quenya lofty or sublime. So it is the higher mind. She represents the place within yourself of your higher mind. It would be represented by your third eye, into your intuition, but even beyond that, because it has to come from a real clear state of knowing. So it's the higher mind, psychic gifts, and higher perceptions. These are all the types of powers and energies that she represents. And what's interesting is that you don't see her talk a lot within the Silmarillion, that she's always agreeing with Manwë because she is one with him. And though they have different parts to their coupling and what they represent, she is more of the type that is more silently perceiving. It's always said that she is the one to have seen Melkor's mind first. So she can perceive through darkness because she is the light. And as we know with the Haldir's quote, the light can perceive through the heart of darkness. So she represents this higher perception that is always able to get right through the darkness, cut through it like a knife. So Varda saw Melkor's mind of darkness and discord way before he even took form. And she ignored him. She did not like him. She hated him. Melkor had been unable to control or possess the light which Varda represented. Therefore, he hated her and also wanted to possess her at the same time. And so this was the challenge between Melkor and Varda, and why Varda was the most hated within Melkor's mind. It's because he himself did not possess the awareness or the light of hope or divine light, even though he was searching for it, because he was always trying to destroy it. So when you're always trying to destroy something, cause discord, you are not really illuminated fully in the divine light. That's what Tolkien is saying. And probably because you're in this illusion of separation from the all. And so when you are one with everything, you are truly illuminated and aware. So this in many ways can also represent enlightenment, fully illumination of the self. So with Varda's powers, this is important to understand, is that we ourselves are made of stardust. So what Tolkien is obviously trying to say is that within all of us, the light can shine through and can ward off darkness, and that we all each have that individual power. So I said this, that number one, with Varda, Manwe, the Valar of the sky, can see beyond all eyes through mist and darkness, and with him, Varda can hear all voices from every corner of the world. And so this is about the perception and being able to perceive. So when you're focusing on Varda, and when you're really trying to harness those energies that she represents as light or illumination on Earth, you will be able to perceive on a deeper level and see to the hopes, the fears, and the dreams of others. And this is because you will have that higher perception that can cut through the darkness that somebody might not even see within themselves. And darkness does not always mean evil, it means unawareness. So she represents the awareness part. That's what light really represents. And with awareness, you can do more good things, because you're not in unawareness that causes you to act unconsciously and make evil choices. So cultivation and activation of your psychic gifts and extrasensory abilities to perceive deeper and truer realities of your life and this world, to see past the lies and the illusions within it, to focus on her energy will bring forth your own psychic powers to the forefront of your consciousness and help you see light through the darkness, so that you will be able to carry that light of hope within you, understanding that, yes, you're looking at darkness within the world, you're looking at an unconscious collective, but you yourself, because you are conscious and aware and illuminated, you will be able to perceive through that darkness and find the light. You will be able to actually find the light, and you won't be lost in the darkness, because you yourself are filled of light, and that's what Varda represents. I have number 2 here. She represents the divine light within us all. We know Namaste, the light we recognize in each other. When we say Namaste to each other, some may call it the light of God or the universe or creation. It is the illumination of the true, pure self, of what you are all part of, and what you are made of, and what you are also doing the purpose for. And so you are getting in touch with the divine purpose, the divine truth of yourself, when you are focused on the light of Varda. And this illumination of the true self is what brings this hope to light, able to see or think about light through the darkness. And with this light, you can ward off darkness within, because of awareness, and also outside of yourself, as a protective strength that comes through you to protect yourself or loved ones around you. Hope can actually be a powerful force if you believe in it. She represents the stars and starlight. So space above Earth represents within the consciousness, higher thoughts, visions, psychic premonitions, the realm of higher consciousness. An eye on higher goals or priorities in your life, which ultimately brings more light into your life. As above, so below. And this helps to bring more light into your life because you'll have more of a clarity to what yourself and your purpose, and what you really want to experience. So that really helps when you focus on the light of Varda within your own life. And how you can do this is a very simple way. You can remind yourself that you yourself are actually made of stardust. This is activation of your inner stardust, because we are made of stars. And stars actually consist of 78% hydrogen, 25% helium, 2% of other elements like oxygen, carbon, and nitrogen. And when you remember that you have those same elements within you, it can start to activate that inner stardust, and it makes you glow from within. And what that means, not just a physical glow, but every single soul is here to radiate a certain energy, a certain vibration, to add to the whole collective. And so you will do your purpose, you will do your desire, your destiny, whatever it is that your soul most yearns to do. Then you are a star. You are shining your light and being your true self. And that is one of the most important things that a soul is here to do on earth, is to be their true self. And so focusing on that stardust that we are made and think about how you are made of stars, that can help you get in touch with the light within, even when you think that there's no light within you, or the way that you think about light and you're not aware of your own inner light. Just remind yourself that you are made of the stardust. When the universe went into creation and what we call the Big Bang occurred, everything is energy and everything is part of each other. And so you have elements of earth as well as the stars, and the elements of the stars also is part of the earth. So as below, so above. Everything is interconnected. So never think of yourself as not being able to shine bright, not being able to be a star on earth, because each one of us is a star. And that's what Varda has taught me and has allowed me to get in touch with as one of my favorite Valar. And so here are some tools to help you with this energy of the light and how you can embrace it. If you want to create an altar, if you want to surround yourself with the type of crystal tools to help you, then these are some of the ones that I chose that I think would help you a lot. Since Varda represents the third eye, the realm of higher thought, higher consciousness, one of the most highest vibrational crystals on earth is amethyst. Amethyst would be a wonderful crystal to use. I think that Varda definitely is represented in the amethyst energy, the intuitive powers, the divine connection. And amethyst, we know, is a very high vibrational stone because it is in the color spectrum of violet. And violet is the highest in the light spectrum that we can observe. And ultraviolet is even beyond that. So anything having to do with purple itself can really help to bring forth this Varda energy of really high vibrations. So amethyst, I definitely say, would be a good one. The next one I say is blue sunstone, which is also known as blue goldstone. And it looks like space. It is blue, but then there's little sparkles inside that look like stars. And what I found out about it is that it's actually just copper and glass. It was made by a monk during the medieval times, but it was so beautiful to look at. And it reminded so many of the galaxy that it became a very popular type of jewel for jewelry. Now, copper is very good for circulation and helping to activate. So there's still some element of higher energy within. Copper can help the blood flow. So it is made from copper and glass, and it enhances energy and can open up future prospects and perceptions of the future. Very much of how the stars are represented in terms of when we look to the stars from Earth right now, we can almost see our future. We can dream about future civilizations that we have either been part of before or that we can someday visit and explore. So the stars represent future prospects, hope for humanity in many ways. So I think that that would be a wonderful reminder of that for you to use. The next one I said would be anything pure silver. You could do sterling silver, and especially titanium, which is the strongest of the silver. And so if you wanted to create decorations, she is known for silver and white light. So if you wanted to create like a theme surrounding your fairy altar, or what you wanted to decorate your home in, and if you really wanted to focus on Varda energy, then make sure that it would be silver, because she really represents that. Even though she helped to create the sun vessel of Arian, she still is, her first thought was silver. And probably because Manwë's first thought was probably gold, because he kind of represents more of the day, the sun energy, and loves the Vanyar elves, which are the light elves, the fair elves of blonde hair the most. So she represents more of that silver energy. And so I think that that could really help you in terms of tools. Selenite. Selenite glows with a beautiful starry white glow. It's actually a gypsum, so it can easily dissolve in water. So, be careful with it, but it can be used as a healing wand. I have one in the shape of a unicorn horn. I love it. And you can also have it as a lamp too. You could buy selenite lamps, which are really beautiful. And sometimes they're referred to liquid light, used as healing wands to cleanse auras and act as a purifier of darkness around you. So selenite is also, it's connected to the moon, but it's also going to have that lighter element. It is a very white light that almost seems to radiate from it. So I think that that would be a wonderful tool, selenite. The next one I have is black Tektite, which is a type of, it's actually from a meteorite. I also have green Moldavite. Moldavite and Tektite, those come from a meteorite as they entered into the Earth's atmosphere long time ago. So it can help bring memories of your past lives when you're meditating with them. A very high vibrational tool to assist in extraterrestrial perception and heightened awareness and understanding. And because she represents space and the stars and the celestial bodies, I thought that anything having to do with a meteorite on Earth would probably be a great tool to get in touch with that celestial energy, that extraterrestrial energy, not just of Middle Earth, but of the stars and space beyond. And I also have this as well. I said this in Manwë's video, Blue Star Sapphire, which is a powerful stone that embodies both Manwë and Varda together, because it's sapphire with a white light embedded in it that looks like a star shining. So if you wanted to focus on that twin flame energy, and if you wanted to bring more of that romance into your life and that idea of that twin flame energy, that could be a really powerful tool for you, because it represents both Manwë and Varda at the same time. The next one I have is any type of star map, moon guide, stars in general. You can have starlights within your room. You could have a planet mobile kind of hanging from your ceiling. These are all ways to just surround yourself. I mean, obviously she represents the stars and the planets, so I thought that would be a great way to just remind yourself of the symbols of what she represents. And that is really it. There are more that you can also include, but I thought that those would be a great start to assist you in getting in touch with those higher vibrations of Varda. And just remember this famous Serbian proverb, be humble for we are made of earth, be noble for we are made of stars, and really believe that. And that is what Varda represents within all of us. Let me see if I forgot anything else. I think I went through it all. She has so much. I could actually do this in 2 videos because there's so much information. But I do want to read you one last thing here. This is on hope itself. This is in the later Quenta Silmarillion from Morgoth's Ring. For Arda, unmarred, hath 2 aspects or senses. The first is that the unmarred, that they discern in the marred, if their eyes are not dimmed, and yearn for, as we yearn for the will of Eru. This is the ground upon which hope is built. The second is the unmarred, that shall be, that is, to speak according to time in which they have their being, the Arda healed, which shall be greater and more fair than the first. Because of the marring, this is the hope that sustaineth. It cometh not only from the yearning for the will of Iluvatar, the begetter, which by itself may lead those within time to no more than regret, but also from trust in Eru, the Lord everlasting, that he is good, and that his works shall all end in good. This the marrer hath denied, and in this denial is the root of evil, and its end is in despair. So that is it. And the light of the stars represents that hope, that the light will come through the darkness. And as Valakirka, the 7 stars of the Big Dipper, the sickle that will smite and chop down Melkor one day, that is the sign and the symbol of that type of victory over the darkness in the world. So keep that in your heart. This is why the elves are so full of hope and revere and respect Varda so much, because light is hope, and light is illumination of the soul and awareness. So what does that say? It says that hope is also connected to how fully aware you are in the idea of your pure spirit that will triumph because you are infinite and you are part of an infinite energy source that we are all from. So I hope you have a wonderful day, and please join us for the Lunar Eclipse Varda ritual that we will be doing. It is a sacred ritual, so if you want to join us tomorrow at 8 p.m. Central at the same time, you just have to join my channel to come to the actual rituals. And I would love to see you all there. So Hananle, everyone, and remember, you are made of stars. Namarie.